For decades, Cliff Richard was the radiant face of British pop, a voice that defined generations, a smile that symbolized joy. But behind the spotlight was a life shaped by upheaval, heartbreak, reinvention, and a very public betrayal that nearly destroyed everything he'd built. Born Harry Roger Webb in Lucknow, India, Cliff's earliest memories were filled with warmth. But as India edged toward independence, his family fled the only home they'd known. Arriving in post-war Britain, they faced rationing and hardship. For young Harry, music became both refuge and salvation. Inspired by Elvis Presley and Little Richard, he transformed himself into Cliff Richard. With the release of Move It, he didn't just make a hit, he lit the fuse for a cultural shift, becoming Britain's first true rock and roll star. The 1960s brought rebellion, excess, and larger-than-life idols. But at the peak of his fame, Cliff did something no one expected. He stood before thousands at a Billy Graham rally and publicly declared his Christian faith. Many predicted it would end his career. Instead, it became his foundation. His faith anchored him through personal storms, the death of his father when Cliff was just 21, the responsibility of caring for his family, and a quiet, unspoken love for Olivia Newton-John that would endure for decades without ever becoming a romance. By the mid-1970s, Cliff's career began to fade. But in 1976, Devil Woman roared up the charts, reigniting his stardom. Over the decades that followed, he adapted again and again, topping charts well into the 1990s with classics like Mistletoe and Wine and The Millennium Prayer, proving that age and industry politics couldn't silence him. Then came 2014, the year everything changed. From his home in Portugal, Cliff watched in horror as helicopters hovered over his Berkshire house. Police were raiding it live on television. The allegations would ultimately collapse, but the damage was done. For 2 years, he lived under a cloud of public humiliation, even though no charges were ever brought. In 2018, the High Court ruled that his privacy had been violated and awarded him damages. He won in court, but the emotional scars ran deep. Cliff Richard's story is one of soaring triumphs and devastating trials, the journey of a man who gave his life to music and faith and stood firm through storms that might have broken anyone else.